let's talk daddy issues. Hello everyone, I'm Sarah from Everyday Starlet. Welcome to my channel. I make videos to inspire you to be the star of your own life. I figured a great Father's Day topic would be to talk about daddy issues, which I don't really like the term daddy issues. I actually prefer the term father wounds because I actually think that, I don't know, daddy issues has a specific, it's taken on a meaning to be very insulting to women. I don't love the idea of blaming women for the mistakes of their parents, men or women. I do think that as people, we all have to take accountability for our lives and take responsibility for our lives, as well as also sometimes accepting that the things that maybe have happened to us or the things that we've experienced, especially when it comes to things like our childhood and the parents who raised us or maybe didn't raise us, depending on your situation. So we spend a lot of time focusing on quote unquote daddy issues, or as I prefer to call them, father wounds. But honestly, like, father wounds can exist in men or women. They tend to show up a little bit differently when it comes to men and women, but they're relevant to both, as well as mother wounds, which are not things that we tend to talk about as much, but are definitely relevant in our world today. And none of this is meant to shame anybody. In reality, most of our parents were just doing the best job that they could. However, our society really does set us up, and I think many people from like my age range and my generation, definitely people younger, you know, my generation was one of the first generations that was really raised by parents of divorce. Now, that was not my particular situation, but I do know many people in my age range and younger have been parents of divorce, or their parents were never together in the first place. And that's not to say that people can't grow up and live healthy, happy lives if they don't have the ideal parental situation, or if their parents couldn't make their relationship work. That's not what this means at all. However, we do know that having a solid, healthy family unit is really the best thing for a child to be growing up in. Now, there are also a lot of families who stayed together who maybe shouldn't have stayed together, and that can affect people too. And in reality, nobody has perfect parents, and nobody has a perfect mother or a perfect father. Whether they were there or whether they weren't, even if they were wonderful, we're always going to have something that's going to come up. And it's those relationships we have with our mother or with our father that really do set us up for how we relate to, I mean, people in the world in general, but specifically in romantic relationships. This isn't necessarily always across the board, but very often the relationship that a daughter has with her father is going to set her up for the relationships she's going to have with future men in her life. In the same way that very often the relationship that a son has with his mother is going to set him up for the romantic relationships that he will have in his life. In the same way, we also often take on the limiting beliefs of both of our parents. So say, for example, if your mother always said, like, all men are liars, you're probably going to grow up thinking that all men are liars. And if you're a daughter, you're probably going to go out into the world with the assumption that men are always going to lie to you, and you're probably going to keep meeting liars, because that's unfortunately how our brain works. If you're a son and your mother was saying that all men are liars, then you as a man are going to start to grow up and feel like, oh my God, does that mean that I'm a liar? And you may start to lie, or you may distrust other men and assume that other men are liars, or you may also feel a lot of shame in yourself for being a man and assuming that you're going to lie, and it might be a self-fulfilling prophecy. These things can be overcome. Like, we're not set up for this for the rest of our lives. However, I think it's really important to be aware of these patterns and aware of these beliefs and aware of the places where we might be repeating the patterns of our parents when we don't want to be. Now, if we had parents who had a wonderful, loving relationship and we want to emulate that, then great. But I think many of us today don't have that experience. So I think it's important to be aware that you don't have to repeat the patterns of your parents, and actually seeing it when it's happening. Because I think a lot of us, I know I've done this before, where I've dated a guy who I was like, well, he's not like my father, because there were a few surface things that were different. But in reality, I was really just repeating the same pattern of my parents and falling into the same patterns as them. And I didn't want that. That wasn't what I wanted for my life and for my relationship. And once you become aware of it, you have the opportunity to heal it. Now, of course, just becoming aware of it doesn't necessarily mean that you've healed it, but that's the first step, is awareness, and then actually deciding that you actually want to do the healing work. In our society today, we really do narrow these issues down to solely shaming women who are sexually promiscuous for having daddy issues because she never got attention from her dad or she never had a dad. She's now acting out those issues by sleeping around with a lot of men. And I'm not saying that pattern can't happen. I don't think that that's the only reason why women are highly sexual. That's also not the only dynamic that can happen. I think very often there's a need in, say, women nowadays to impress either their father or their mother, but very often their father, to achieve things to impress him. So like that overachiever energy can also come from that. I think very often in particular, I know from my generation in particular, and I think we're seeing that in younger people as well, if you had a mother who really had to embody all of the masculine energy in the relationship or in her life, whether it be because she, you know, didn't have a husband or whether because she didn't have a husband who was stepping into that masculine role, and she became that I can do it all, I can do everything kind of a woman, I think very often she can teach her daughters that they need to be that do-it-all kind of a woman, whether she wanted to or not. That was my story. And I also think what's happening now, and we don't talk about this often enough, is men who have grown up with mothers who were the do-it-all kind of a woman, but the mothers weren't happy, and very often it was hurting their relationships. But I think many men nowadays I'm seeing saw their mothers doing it all and their mothers embodying all this masculine energy, so they assume that that's what a woman should be doing, and then they get into relationships and realize, hey, women aren't happy trying to do it all and be in that masculine energy all the time. And then relationships start deteriorating. Now, I could go into a whole thing about the reasons why I think that society has set us up that way and put my conspiracy theory hat on, but I won't get into that in this video because I have a lot of other videos talking about my views on feminism and the conspiracy theories and things like that. We're seeing that a lot, I think, in men, or men who had mothers who were very masculine, and men who now resent strong women because they saw their mother as being, you know, a very aggressive or very masculine, and we're seeing that in a lot of men. And I don't think that we acknowledge that enough, because I know I see it a lot with a lot of women who get very triggered when they see, you know, men online, or when they see strong men, and they get very fearful because of, you know, maybe bad experiences that they've had with father figures. And, you know, I think you're seeing a lot of, I mean, the numbers of women that I have seen in like women's groups and connecting with them that have abuse situations with not just fathers, but father figures in their life or things like that. I mean, that's where you're seeing so much of this wounding, and so many women who are walking around with this fear and distrust of men because so many of them have been abused, and you're seeing that pattern happen. I think we're also seeing the result of a lot of men who are feeling shut off because, you know, in some ways they're being blamed for other bad men's behavior. They're dealing with a lot of women who are very unhappy, who are very guarded, very protected, and a lot of these men are feeling very resentful, you know, because in the end of the day, we're kind of making the good ones pay for the bad ones' mistakes. And in reverse, I think there are a lot of men out there who they punish all women because they've seen, you know, their mother maybe wasn't very nice to them because the mother resented men, or maybe they've had, you know, some bad experiences with women in their past. And I don't think we talk about that enough, because I know I get it a lot on social media, where I get a lot of men who get really angry and resentful, and at the end of the day, they're not men who know me, so I know that it's not about me or what I'm saying, because to get that angry or take things that I say that personal, I know that it's not really about me. And I think a lot of them are taking out their anger and frustration at their mothers or other women in their lives on other women. So I think what happens is when you have this dynamic where you have a lot of women who may have had really bad father figures or no father figures, or you've had men who have had a lot of mother issues. In today's society, mothers are technically, you know, doing it all. They're being the father figure themselves. And you know, when you start getting into women trying to be a father figure, that can be a really complicated dynamic for, especially for young kids. And you have a lot of men who are playing out their mother wounding on other women, all the women in their life. And you have a lot of women who are playing out their father wounding on all kinds of men. And we're really just playing out these parental wounds that we have inside of us on other people. We're not creating loving connection. We're not creating families. Even people who are having families, it's not working out that that well. It's one of the reasons why I create my content, because I really want people to embrace their natural core energies. I want women to be able to reconnect with their natural feminine energy, and men to be able to connect with their natural masculine energy. And then that creates a sexual polarity in a relationship, which can actually cultivate love and connection. And we can heal from our past, and we can start from now and actually start creating the life that we want and not living based on our parental beliefs or our parental wounding. And I'm not saying that that's easy. There's some people who have really deep pain and trauma, and I'm not going to dismiss that at all. And I really encourage everybody who's dealing with deep wounding from their past to really seek support, because I think that that's really important. And you deserve healing. You deserve healing, and you deserve a healthy relationship. And it's knowing that you deserve a healthy relationship. And I'm speaking to everybody, men or women, and regardless of what your parental situation was or your past was, you deserve healing, and you deserve to find the relationship that you want. I want to give a few tips about healing from parental wounds. I'm certainly not an expert at this. It's just something that I've been working through, and I want to mention a few things to people. It's partly about letting go of expectations, and it's also knowing when it's the right time. One thing is, even if your parents are together, you're probably going to have to work on healing your relationship with each parent individually, because even if your parents are together in a relationship, your dynamic between each of them is going to be different. Like, I know for me, with one parent, I had both of my parents go through some really severe health problems around the same time. And with one parent, it was as difficult and a struggle as it was incredibly healing for both of us, and our relationship got so much stronger and healthier as a result. I was hoping that that same thing would happen with the other parent, and it didn't. And I had to come to the place of accepting that that parent was just not capable of meeting me where I needed them to meet me, and actually letting that go and just saying, okay, that's all they're capable of. And as difficult as that was, and I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, I'm not saying that I'm not still working through some of this stuff, it's accepting the fact that some of this healing work, even if you have a parent who is still in your life or a parent who is still living, because some people don't and they have to heal the work without that parent present, but even if the parent is still alive and even is still in your life, you might have to accept the fact that you're healing that relationship. It may just need to be something that happens within yourself, and letting go of the idea that you have to heal with them present and with them a part of it. And for me, I mean, I know a big part of my healing journey was understanding that I made some decisions in my life with some relationships, and accepting that I was doing the best that I knew to do at the time. I was getting into relationships that were very much modeled after my family situation and my parental situation, and that was not the dynamic that I wanted my life to be in. And it was accepting that, it was realizing that, and forgiving myself for doing that in the past, for knowing that I can make different choices moving forward, and also for honoring that I made some pretty big decisions in my life that I held a lot of guilt for, and knowing that those decisions were breaking the pattern, were breaking the ancestral curse, if you want to call it, and owning that and saying, okay, yes, I did things differently than my parents did, but I managed to break the cycle. And that's important. And so I just want to encourage everybody out there, if anybody is out there who is, you know, dealing with this stuff, dealing with painful relationships with either parent or both parents or anything, is just know that you're not alone in this, that most of us are going through this. And if you're doing the work and you're healing, you're already way ahead of most people, because most people aren't even looking at this stuff at this point. And if you're not ready for it, then that's fine too. But if you are ready for it and you are doing the work and you are going through this and maybe you're in the depths of it and you're in pain, just know that you're not alone. A lot of us are going through this, and a lot of us we see you. We see you, and I want you to know that, and that it's going to be difficult, and it may not look pretty, and it may not look the way you expect it to look, but it's worth it, and you're worth it, and I just want you to know that. So I just wanted to make this video and share this message with you, because I know sometimes, you know, the Mother's Day, Father's Day kind of things that happen, or holidays in general, or whatever, when it comes to, you know, families getting together, or maybe your families don't get together, it can be difficult and it can be challenging, and I just want to send everybody love if they're going through it right now. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you have any comments on this topic or any other topics you'd like me to discuss, let me know. Leave a comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you, and I love your suggestions. questions. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give it a big thumbs up and be sure you subscribe to my channel. If you're a woman and you want to connect to your feminine energy, I have an online course called Feminine Radiance. Details in the description box below, along with links to all my social media channels. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you join me next time.